Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for May 9th through 15th. This week I read 4 books, I watched 2 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 3 books. First this week I read Dead Endia: The Watcher's Test. This is a graphic novel that takes place in an amusement park that's based off of a celebrity. I believe it was called Polyland, so you can imagine it's a take on Dollyland. However, the cast of characters we follow work in this haunted house type of situation, but it actually has a portal to different realms. Not only that, but it also got time travel at points, so there is a whole bunch of weirdness to it. What I liked about this is it was queer, the art was fun, some of the connections between the characters I really enjoyed. Other than that, it was just kind of okay. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't my favorite thing that I've ever read. Next, I read an arc of If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is the first in what I think is going to be a series from Disney where they are doing Disney princess stories but as adults, and I'm excited, especially because this first one by Julie Murphy was really good. If the Shoe Fits is about Cindy, who recently graduated from design school and is moving back to Los Angeles to live with her step-family till she figures out exactly what she's going to do with her degree. Her stepmom is a very successful producer of this TV show called Before Midnight, which is a reality dating show. At the very last minute, a couple of cast members from the next season of that show drop out, so her and her stepsisters enter into the show. This is despite her mom having reservations about her going on the show because she's plus size. She wants to get her name out there so she can get a design job. She doesn't care that she's fat. There are a lot of things I loved about this retelling, the first one being that the stepfamily is not evil. Sure, growing up her older stepsisters were more popular than her, but they've always been nothing but kind and loving and understanding of her, and I loved seeing that support. I don't think I've ever seen a retelling where the stepfamily isn't treated as though they're completely evil. I've seen nuanced takes on it where the stepmother isn't evil but the stepdaughters are, but I haven't seen a supportive family like this before, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. In addition, they have 3 half-siblings because her stepmother and her father ended up having triplets, and those are named after the mice from the Cinderella movie. I also found the dating show aspect of it really interesting, especially because I read One to Watch recently, because that again is another plus-size person goes on a dating show book, and on the surface it would seem easy to just compare these books and figure out which one's better, but they had their strengths and their shows worked slightly differently, and I enjoyed both of them. This is a really great retelling, and I can't wait to see what else comes out of this series. Next I read Hurry Home, which was a mystery thriller of sorts that alternated between the perspectives of 2 sisters. The first sister we meet is Alex. She works for Protective Services in her very small town. She lives in a very nice condo with her boyfriend. She has a friend on the police force that she's very, very close to, and she just really wants to protect these kids. All of a sudden, Ruth shows up out of nowhere, which is her older sister she hasn't seen for a decade. Honestly, Alex didn't know if she was even alive anymore because every time she tried to contact her, she never heard back from her. When she left the family, she left with this creep of a guy, she had a drug issue, and she shows up pregnant. You alternate back and forth between these characters, and you come to quickly realize that at least one of them is an unreliable narrator, and you really need to figure out which one. I figured it out pretty quickly, and I also figured out what the damning evidence was going to be pretty early in the book. Basically, as soon as it came up, I was like, huh, that. However, it was interesting to go back and forth and see how it played out. Finally, I read an arc of The Ghosts We Keep by Mason Deaver, which comes out June 1st. This book is about Liam, who is grieving the loss of their older brother Ethan, who died via hit and run. We jump around on the timeline a lot in this one, from before the incident to after the incident, and seeing these vignettes with Ethan before he died and seeing how that affects Liam later. This book is about death and grief and toxic friendships, as well as having an instance of attempted self-harm, so know that going in. Yes, this is a sad book, and Liam often feels hopeless and has panic attacks as well, so that is another content warning you should be aware of. This is another book I figured out very early on, but that didn't impact my enjoyment of seeing it unfold on the page. I will also be putting up a vlog near the end of the month where I read this book, so look out for that. On to what I watched this week. If you're a regular watcher of this series, you probably know the 2 TV shows I watched this week were Bones and Malcolm in the Middle. As for Bones, we're in the 10th season right now. I think we're nearing the end of the 10th season. We've gotten to the point where one of the main characters has relapsed in their addiction, so there's that. I'm still waiting to see if that major character injury is going to happen, because it hasn't happened yet, and every time that character is in a situation where they could possibly get hurt, I'm like, oh no, does it happen now? And I need it to happen so that I stop flailing every time the character comes on screen. As for Malcolm, we watched up until the end of the 5th season, which was actually a 3-parter episode. It's 2 parts at the end of the season, and then it's another 2 be continued to the 6th season, so there's that. There's a lot going on at this point. Malcolm was caught with Reese's girlfriend. Reese joined the army. Nobody knows where he is. Hal is standing trial because people in his company put all of the blame for the embezzlement and what's been going on him. Francis and Piama are there trying to help take care of the house, and Jamie, and Dewey is just, you know, winning piano championships and nobody's noticing. It's a mess, and I really hope that they have like a nice episode at some point because they deserve it. As for movies this week, we watched an oldie but a goodie, which is The Devil Wears Prada. I haven't seen this in a very, very long time, so I just remembered the 2 main actresses in it. And then as I was starting and I started seeing names on the screen, I was like, oh my goodness, Stanley Tucci is in this. Of course he is. And Tracy Toms. I love her. This movie definitely has some high points. It has some amazing performances. It also has a bunch of fat phobia because it's a movie about fashion from the early 2000s, so there's that. But overall, it was a decent rewatch. We also watched Cloud Atlas, which is based on a book that I have never read, and I'm kind of okay with that. If there's 1,000 books on my TBR, it's probably somewhere in the 800s, so I wasn't going to wait to read it to watch the movie. Mostly because the movie is full of an amazing cast, and that's what drew me to it as opposed to the thought of the plot of the book. What I knew about the book before going into this movie is there are 6 different plot lines, and you're trying to figure out how and if they are connected, and if you go into the movie, you can definitely see how they are connected. Let's see if I can remember all of the timelines. From the Pacific Islands in 1849, we then go to Oxford in the 1930s, we then go to San Francisco in 1973, I believe it was, we go to London in 2012, we go to New Seoul in 2144, and then we go to 106 years after the fall of civilization. Between each of these leaps there's a reference to something before, but it's often very, very small and you have to really be paying attention to see it. For example, in the 1970s, Halle Berry's character sometimes talks to this small boy. I can't remember his name right now, but when we get to the 2012 section, Jim Broadbent is reading a manuscript of a book and it's written by that child. This movie is mostly fun to watch and try to see if you can pick out all of the instances of all of the main actors because some of them play 7 different characters. I had some feelings about some of the prosthetics used in certain scenes, such as when it was set in New Seoul and the white actors that appeared in that section were often put in prosthetics that made them look as though they were Asian. That wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but overall outstanding performances. I also watched a 50-minute documentary called Sherlock Holmes Against Conan Doyle. This is all about how Sherlock Holmes became much more famous than the man that created him, despite the fact that the man that created him did a lot in his lifetime that is worth noting. This is a subject that I was vaguely aware of. I knew that Arthur Conan Doyle didn't like Sherlock Holmes after a while. He didn't want to be remembered for that. He wanted to write these romantic historical books like his favorite author, Sir Walter Scott, who is the author that has the tallest monument to a writer in the world. It's in Edinburgh. It's the Scots Monument. I believe it has 273 steps. I've been there, and also it was a setting in Cloud Atlas this week. In any case, this documentary gave you a timeline of when these things were written and the whole killing off Sherlock Holmes thing and bringing him back and how popular it was and all of these different little tidbits throughout his life, and it was pretty interesting. On to what I listened to this week, the first book being The Only Black Girls in Town by Brandy Colbert. This is a middle grade book about Alberta, who lives in a small California town with her 2 dads, and all of a sudden across the street moves in another black family. She is the only black person in her grade and one of 3 black people at her school. So to have a mother and daughter duo move in across the street and have that daughter be the same age of her is just a stroke of luck. This is also wonderful because she loves her best friend Laramie, but Laramie is white and doesn't always understand microaggressions, whereas the new girl in her life does. They also uncover a sort of mystery together, so that draws them closer while Laramie seems to be drifting off towards the mean popular girl. I adored this. I loved seeing the little mystery element in there. I figured it out before they did, but I'm an adult, so that makes sense. I loved seeing that type of history in this book. I'm not going to spoil for you what it was, because that is very important history, and I love seeing how that played out. There's also a further emotional complication in this setup because the woman who gave birth to her, who is not her mother because she has 2 dads, is a friend of the dad's, and she is currently pregnant with her own child, and she's coming to stay with them because her husband is away shooting a movie in Vancouver, which is close to here. So now she has this woman who looks a lot like her, who is about to have another baby, and that has some emotions to it. This week I also listened to The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This is a book written on, I believe, about 8 or 9 vineyards vignettes, and all of them have to do with Black women who I believe were all Southern and grew up in the church, and whether or not they're still there at the point in their story is a different case. It's hard to talk about this collection because it really is more so a short story centered around this idea of growing up in and around the church, but it really is based around these secret lives, whether or not the characters were secretly queer or they were having an affair or any of those types of things. This was only about a 4-hour audiobook, so it went by very, very quickly, but I really enjoyed the writing of it and getting to know these women even though they were immediately taken away from me. The final book I finished this week was Fortune Favors the Dead. This is a detective mystery set in 1945 featuring a queer main character. Will Parker had a pretty rough upbringing. She ran away from home at the age of 15, joined the circus, and then when she was 20 she met Lillian Pentecost, who is a world-famous lady detective. Flash forward a few years and Will is working for her and they get this case. It is an honest-to-goodness locked room mystery, and although Lillian has kind of a disdain for rich folks, this does pay the bills. A year previous, the patriarch of this family committed suicide at the desk in his study in this family home, and now, a couple of weeks ago, his wife has been bludgeoned to death. Since the police have not been able to solve this murder, it is negatively impacting the family business, so Pentecost and Parker are called into the case. This is the first in a series, and I am definitely going to read them all because I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's set up as though it's being written way after the fact, and it's kind of a memoir of sorts, and I really like that setup. Additionally, one of the main reasons that Lillian Pentecost was looking for an assistant in the first place is she has multiple sclerosis, so she has good days, she has bad days, she needs the assistance, but she has such a bright mind, she wants to just be able to do as much good as she can, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed their partnership. I'm not going to give anything else away though, because this mystery was juicy. That's it for this week. If you read, watch, or listen to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!